Hi, I'm Ashley Adamson, and welcome to another episode. Check out these extensions. These are something that I'm just trying out. I'm very new at that, and also I never put lipstick on, so this is an experiment. I'm adding on stuff because I'm going to be going out clubbing tonight in Berlin, so that's going to be fun. But before I do that, we're going to do this, which is talking about something super, super important and also really, really frightening. I don't know where you are in your transition, but if you are thinking about transitioning and coming out to your family, this is something you may be thinking about, which is potentially losing your family. And if you've already come out and already maybe lost your loved ones, that's also like such a huge struggle. A few of you have told me this, that it has happened to you. And Kara, thank you for suggesting this topic. And I'm so sorry that this has actually happened to you. So I wanted to talk about what do you do when you've lost your loved ones? How do you get through this? Like, what happens? And so I'm going to go over three main points. The first two are going to be sort of like the most fundamental ones. And then the third one, I think, is the most important one. So without further ado, let's dive in. Oh, by the way, I do trans topics and personal growth focused content. So like, if you want, please like and subscribe below. I really appreciate the support, and thank you to my patrons for sponsoring me and this video. So I think the first thing that you're gonna have to think about is like, is it worth being conditionally accepted for not being trans? Versus being accepted by someone that accepts you because you are trans. This is like the biggest loss aversion fallacy that we fall into, which is we often think that losing someone is worse than gaining someone else later who accepts us for who we are. And that's because with certainty, you can say, well, this is a person that is valuable and important to me in my life, and I don't want to lose them. There's that loss aversion because you are so heavily invested in that person, in that relationship. But that conditionality of why that relationship will exist, let's say with your family or with a loved one, that conditionality is a long-term loss because it will gradually wear and tear on your own sense of authenticity, your own sense of being who you are, and really experiencing the world. I had a partner for 4 years, and she really only conditionally accepted me as a man, but once I became a woman, it really just wasn't going to work out. And it held me off on transitioning for several years because I was afraid of losing her. I really thought that we could get married and we could have a life together, but that just wasn't going to work once I transitioned. And in retrospect, it was totally the right thing, because my life is so much better now that I've transitioned, and I feel so much happier. Your happiness ceiling, kind of like, there is a happiness ceiling. Once you kind of like, if you don't transition, you can only be as happy as you're allowing yourself to be, because you're not allowing yourself to be who you actually are. Does that make sense? If you become the person that you've always wanted to be, then your happiness becomes a lot more fundamental and a lot more rooted in exactly what's going to make you happy, because you are experiencing the joy of being you and doing something that you love and being happy about it. Versus if you, let's say for my example, if I stayed as a man, I could experience joy and happiness, but that joy and happiness would only been able to be expressed in a masculine way and in ways that I was considered to be accepted in doing this. Does that make sense? So I didn't really understand that I had a happiness ceiling until I transitioned and went, wow, my happiness can actually go so much higher because of the fact that I am now more of who I am. And I just feel so euphoric in being able to laugh and have joy and find friends that accept me for who I am. So that's kind of like one of the biggest things, is really like your value between conditional acceptance versus acceptance. I thought authentic acceptance. That's what I wrote down in my notes. Like being authentically accepted or accepted for your authenticity. So that's kind of the first thing. The second thing is this concept of chosen family versus inherited family. You know, the family that you have is the family that you were born into. You really didn't have a choice as to what your values of your parents are going to be, what situation you're going to be in. But now that you are an adult or close to it, and you're able to make decisions because you now know who you are, you can decide on whether or not this is really your family that you want to be committed to, that you want to be close to. I remember, I haven't lose my family, by the way, to this, but I have had many relationships that have just disappeared that were super meaningful and important to me that are just gone. And it really felt like I was being burned by it, and it took some time to recover. It does hurt, but burning it down is sometimes better than trying to keep it alive. Does that make sense? Like, if you're trying to keep something together, you're going to be focusing on so much effort on trying to get it to work or trying to make it work. Sometimes this may happen in a relationship where you're saying, no, we can make this work. We can make this work. But no matter what you do, it doesn't seem to work out. Maybe you've had that in your own experience, or maybe you've seen that around you from other people that have had this issue. Sometimes you just have to let it go. And yes, there's a gaping void of pain there, but with time and with continual effort on making your situation better, you'll eventually get past it, and you'll find some acceptance in that situation where you can move on and welcome someone else into your life. And that's probably the hardest thing, is predicting when that someone else in your life who's going to accept you, who's going to love you for who you are, whether that's a partner or a friend or a family, like a chosen family member. That's hard to predict. Sometimes you may already have that, but other times you may not have that. I had to reinvent my entire friend circle of who would support me, and I was prepared to lose my family when I came out to them. But luckily that part didn't happen. I just lost a bunch of my best friends when I was a guy, which is still really painful, but you know. So kind of like the second thing is like identifying who your chosen family is and understanding that your chosen family can emerge once you are authentic as who you are. Because who's going to be able to see you for who you are if you're not visibly who you are and you're just pretending to be something else? This is a very insidious place to be when you're pretending to be someone else, because you condition your mind and you condition your thought processes to feel like you're fake and to feel like you're not really who you are. So there's this continual imposter syndrome that can build up as well. So you want to avoid that. So the third one, and this is probably the most important one, is asking yourself, like, how do you tell this narrative for yourself? How do you identify your path? I identify as a warrior, and as a warrior, I have a path. And this path is the one that I do not stray from and I stick to, because it gives me meaning and it gives me a reason to be here and what I am doing, which is helping you and supporting the world in making this a better place. Now, how I do that is what I'm doing right now, and I may do that in other ways in the future. But rooting down and saying, why am I doing this? Why am I striving forward? What is, like, who am I and how am I going to tell this narrative is super, super important, because that's what you're going to need to fall back on when it gets really, when you feel really destabilized. I don't know if you saw my last video, but I had a really, really shitty day with many things kind of attacking, and I was at a very low. And so check out that video if you want to see me at my lowest. But that is okay, because I have a bedrock to fall back on, which is that I am a warrior, I am on a path, and this is why I'm here. And when I can fall back onto that, I know with steadfast strength that I can stand up and I can move forward with my life, but there's going to be that process of pain and tears and feeling like you've just completely lost. I have had moments where I'd cry myself to sleep, and then I'd wake up and then I'd continue crying because I was back in reality, and then I'd cry myself back to sleep. I laugh about it now, but it was like some of the darkest times of my life. But the thing that kind of kept me together was just knowing, like, this process of pain and suffering is going to be alchemized and used in a way to help and help other people when they are in their darkness. So if you can find like a story to tell and a narrative around, like, why are you doing this? What is your path? And how are you telling the story about how how you are. I am a warrior. I am on this path, and I believe in authenticity. I believe in walking, saying, and speaking your truth and living your best possible life. These things are wrapped in this identity of me being a warrior and having the strength to overcome, that when I face these really, really hard issues, I know to fall back on this principle of who I am. This is my path. This is where I'm going, and I will keep going. Nothing is going to stop me. And yes, there are things that can be fought and there are things that are struggles, but this is the art of being a warrior, right? Like, it takes some kung fu, it takes a certain level of self-mastery and dedication to really make it through this. Like, I don't think you really want to be weak. I don't really think you want to be a victim that just never finds a way to pick themselves up, and that you kind of like create or perpetuate the story that you're never capable of being strong enough to make your life yours. Right? Like, that doesn't sound like a very appealing story. So when you're forced in this situation to make a choice, which is either to suffer and feel like you've lost, or to say, no, this is just more challenging, the stakes have been increased, I can find a way through this, I just need to keep working on this, that's really the best path out of it. And that's going to lead you to a quicker path to finding people that accept you, that love you, and finding more life satisfaction. Because this is one of the hardest struggles in your life, and it will be something that you will be able to rely on as a gem of power when when you're facing and you're confronted with other terrifying things. So how was that? So the three, just to recap, is there's conditional acceptance versus being accepted for your authenticity. Like, which would you rather have? Second is chosen family versus inherited family. Which would you rather have? And also, like, what is your path? How are you identifying in your narrative, and how are you telling the story to yourself? That's it for today's episode. Please like and subscribe, comment below, let me know how you identify, what your experience has been. And this is thanks to my patrons. And if you'd like to support me, you can check out my Patreon down below. I'll see you in another episode soon. Bye.